Hi everyone, Elle Hackney here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I like to speak to everyone in the book world, whether they be authors, illustrators, podcasters, or industry professionals. But today I have someone I'm very excited to speak with because they like to mix science and story to inspire creativity. Can I please welcome Cristy Burne?
Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. It's awesome to be here.
I'm so excited to speak with you. You've got a book out called Ultraviolet, and I understand that you like to mix science and story. So, can we hear all about this wonderful book?
Certainly. First of all, Ultraviolet is a graphic novel, so it's very much a teen book. It was pitched to me by Larrikin House, who are the publisher, and then I've teamed up. So I do the words, and Rebel Challenger, amazing, takes those words and does all of the illustrations. She's put in all her own jokes. There's so much visual humor. So first of all, tip of the hat to the teamwork behind Ultraviolet. A book is never a solo effort. But yeah, the actual book itself, I had so much fun with this book. It's number one, a comedy. It's about a girl called Violet Butt who is very, very interested in science. She is totally into making her own inventions. Her parents are mostly on their phones, so they have no idea what she's up to. And when there's a dreadful problem at school, the toilet is blocked, she and her best friend Izzy and their talking hermit crab Leonardo da Vinci,
I love that.
uh, they have to come on in and save the day. So primarily it's a book about laughing, it's a book about toilets. The sewage humor is all scientifically on like it's all real. So they get blasted down into the sewers where they get trapped inside a giant fatberg, which of course, if you follow sewage news, you'll know that people are in the habit of flushing things down the loo that they shouldn't flush. And then they pour things like sausage fat down the loo and
Oh,
grease and, wet wipes and nappies. And all of that hits the sewage system, coagulates, chemically reacts with the sewage, and forms this enormous solidifying mass of rotting waste that we call a fatberg. And so they're inside this fatberg and they have to try and escape using science and inventiveness and creativity. It's totally off the wall. It's incredibly wacky. There are explosions and alien invasions. And my brief was, let's celebrate women in science. Let's get creative and let's make sure kids want to read this book. Let's make it funny. So I did.
and I think that's what I love about this because, you know, 10-year-old, 12-year-old Lauren, science wasn't her strong suit. But I think if I had like more books like this, I would have been interested. Are you finding that children who are reading Ultraviolet are suddenly asking more questions because a lot of it is factual?
And a lot of it is completely off the wall. That's the other thing I really love about this book, because Violet is all about facts and her friend Izzy is not. She doesn't care about facts. She believes what she believes, and she believes a lot of conspiracy theories. But I love that they're still friends, because just because our friend has a different opinion to us, if we suddenly alienate them and say, no, I can't be with you, you believe in that, that's ridiculous, we can't be friends, then we're going to be the segmented society where everybody hates each other because we believe different things. And we can't do that. We need to be joining together and stronger together so we can really do something about these huge global challenges that we have. If we're all together, regardless of what we believe, we all live on one tiny little planet. If we're all together, we can do something about looking after it better. So I got sidetracked.
No, I like that too because the two characters just remind me, and sorry, yes, we will go back to children asking questions, but they remind me of a human body where one's the head and one's the heart. And as much as they're two individual people, I think there's a lot of that inside of everyone where you've got logical thinking, but then you've got the emotion with it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, do you find that children what like they're reading this book and they're learning as they're reading and it's captivating? are they asking more questions about science?
I don't know, Lauren, because you are so on the ball. This book only came out like last week. So I don't know. But I really hope that, because there's lots of things, there's pie graphs, there's dichotomous keys, and they're used with such irony and humor and grossness. So I really hope that, yeah, that kids begin to question, why do I believe this? What are the facts? And also, Violet, she strongly believes that there's no such thing as aliens. And then when the evidence changes, when an alien lands on her school oval, she has to change what she believes to fit the facts, to fit what she's seeing with her own eyes. So I love that too, that we can believe something and it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to go, oh, I used to believe this and now I see that. And that's okay, right? Because we were chatting off air before. We're humans. We make mistakes. We can only do the best that we can do with this ridiculous little bunch of grey matter in our heart. Like you were saying, all those emotions and hormones and ideas. We can only do the best that we can do at that time. And that's forever in flux and changing. So I love that Violet changes her mind and realizes, oh my gosh, planet Earth is under invasion. And I
Yeah.
also love, I had so much fun writing this. It's not planet Earth that's under attack. It's planet Garth, but there's been a
Oh,
spelling error. There's been a typo, and the alien has come to the wrong planet. So spelling matters, everybody. It's
it
very
does.
important.
Spelling matters, and so does grammar, because
Yeah,
let's see, grammar could be taken two different ways depending where you put that comma.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I love how you've definitely made this story with so much of your own enthusiasm. And I hope that shines through with the readers, because if we can get more kids reading, learning, being interested in science, and then also having their own imaginations ticking over, thinking, oh, I could think of something like that's all such a win. Were any of the characters in this book based on your family? Because I understand your book, Into the Blue, had elements of your nan and your kids in it. So I'm
So
curious.
Into the Blue it's a contemporary junior fiction, and it's about kids making a mistake and then not having the courage to own up to that mistake and hiding the mistake until the mistake grows so big that they are in even more trouble. So that is based 100% on fact. And it happens with more regularity than I would like in my household. But Ultraviolet, I know that you love to chat about the publishing journey, Lauren. So I'll give you the publishing journey for that. The potted version is that, oh, can I give you the long version? The long version
Yeah,
is struggle,
let's go.
struggle, 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 pain, rejection, pain, rejection. um, I got my first book published because I entered a writing competition, and I'd entered loads. I entered loads and loads of competitions. I always say anything that's free to enter, enter. And anything that costs money to enter, I will only enter after I've looked at who the judges are. Because if the
Oh,
judges are people actually in the industry, or they're a publishing house, or they've got some clout, then I might enter. But if they're sort of a little bit iffy, I think, no, you just want my $50 or you just want my $15. I'm not going to enter. So I
yeah.
entered this competition. I was living in England at the time, and the publisher was Francis Lincoln Children's Books. They've since sold to a giant European publisher, but they were the real deal, a beautiful little small publishing house, and that's how my first book got published. And from there, I became instantly famous, and I bought a castle, and everything that I sent out was picked up in a four-way auction. No, from there, from there I got rejected over and over and over and over again. For about 5 or 6 years, everything I wrote was rejected. And then I'd come back to Perth. We'd had our couple of kiddies, and to the Lighthouse got picked up by Fremantle Press, which was amazing because I was back into it. And from there, I've just worked really, really hard, constantly getting rejected, constantly producing stuff, constantly trying to be the best writer that I can be, and still stick to what I want to achieve, what I want to achieve for children, like why I write. Because I think if you know why you write, that helps you get out of bed and it helps you pass the rejection. So I'm very much right, because I want children to be strong and creative and resilient and able to think outside the box and solve problems and understand each other. And so I love kids. That's why I write.
Yeah, kids are
Anyway,
so important.
oh, so good. So then now I'm in this wonderful position, this dream position where people ring me up and say, we have a project, would you like to work on it?
That is exciting.
Amazing. So that's what happened with Ultraviolet. Danny V texted me and she said, hey, can I chat to you for a while about junior fiction? And I was like, yeah, sure. I thought she wanted to ask me my advice because I'm so amazing. But no, she was writing to say, hey, can you put together a pitch for a junior fiction for Larrikin? And by the way, we would love it to be about a female scientist. We want to get behind this women in STEM. We want to show kids that you can be whatever you want to be. I was like, wicked. So I did the junior fiction, pitched it, and they said, actually, can this be a graphic novel?
Oh.
And I was like, I've never done it. I didn't, what? Sure, yes, it could be a graphic novel. So then I wrote this as a graphic novel. And the other thing that happened, it's a comedy. And my family had just been through 9 months of really awful health scares and sickness. And, it was the tail end of COVID. My brother-in-law had just died from motor neurone disease, which is just an awful illness with no cure, and a genetic component that we just spent 9 months trying to jump hurdles and get tested and find out whether this was going to be something that we would have to deal with for our children, for my husband. So it was just a horrific 9 months of being really anxious and being really unable to do anything about that. Like, there's nothing you can do. It's already in your genes if you carry this gene. And then when we got the news, thank goodness, that that we don't carry the gene, that the children don't carry the gene.
Oh.
Far. That was such a relief. And I just locked myself in my cupboard and wrote the funniest, most joyful manuscript that could come out of me. It just bubbled out anything I wanted to do. I did. I felt so grateful to be alive and grateful for the sunrise and grateful for my health and grateful for the perspective, that you only have today and anything could change at the drop of a hat. You gotta take the joy while you can find it. And that's what we really learned, and that's what I tried to pour into this manuscript, because it's worth having a laugh. It's worth reading something just because it makes you go, that's ridiculous, and it puts this smile on your face. And I think that's another reason to get out of bed. We need more joy. We need to have a good time. It's the journey. So I really hope that, yes, I'd love for kids to fall in love with science or be intrigued by sewage, but also I want them to just laugh and go, that was wicked. Give me another book, and let's have a laugh in the way that I walk through the world.
Yeah, that's an amazing part of the production of this story, because I had no idea that it came
I
out of
think you're
such
the first
heartbreak.
person I've told, Lauren.
Because that to me is like imagination has saved the day for you with
Yeah.
this book. Like, what an escape. So when anyone picks up Ultraviolet, the story, on a surface level, yes, there's comedy, yes, there's amazing Rebel Challenger illustrations, but when you dig more into the infancy of this book, it comes from a place where that was your escape out of some darkness, and that's stressful. Like, that
Yeah,
is, like, your family as a whole, I am so sorry all of you had to go through that. Um that's terrifying.
it is terrifying. Yeah.
But what
But
you've
you have a 50% chance of inheriting that gene. So for many families, they do inherit the gene. And then if you inherit that gene, at some point you will develop the illness. So it's really a call to arms to say, you've got to live, guys. You got to walk in the sunshine and go in the trees and breathe deep and hug the people you love, because we are mortal and it's so fleeting. So take the joy, choose the joy.
Choose the joy. And pick up ultraviolet, because you won't be disappointed.
Put your head in that toilet. There's so much to learn.
Did I read right, though, that you splattered sewage on your neighbour?
Yes.
Is that
entirely accidental?
Did that come into the story at all?
I don't know. I think I was pretty fascinated with Fatbergs as soon as I heard about them. But the sewage incident that happened when I was living in Japan, I was living all by myself. I had limited Japanese. I had no idea that my house and my neighbor's house in this semi-rural town shared a sewage pipe, until this Japanese gentleman knocked on my door, and I opened the door and he said, "I'm your neighbor." And then he said a bunch of stuff I couldn't understand because my vocabulary didn't extend to sewage. And he wanted to look in the backyard. So I led him through the house. I took him to the backyard. And then he found this little vent in the lawn and he pulled it up. And then I realized, oh, there's a sewage problem. Got it. And he looked, he gestured to his house and my house, went, got it, I understand. And then he asked me to go into the house, into my house, and flush the loo. While he looked into the open pipe to check what was going to happen. Because if it was blocked at my end, nothing would come through. But if it was blocked at his end, it would come through. And of course, as soon as I flushed, this wave of my poo couldn't be anyone else's. I'm the only one who lives in the house. This wave of my sewage came gushing down the pipe, hit the blockage on his end, and pushed up into his face.
Oh.
And I had no idea until I came out the back door, and there he was, just like.
I have no words at all.
It was awful. It was just so embarrassing. So embarrassing.
So did elements of that story show up in ultraviolet?
Well, that's how you know if you've got a fatberg underneath your sewer. So if you've been putting things that you shouldn't do, that you shouldn't put down the drain, it could be you, it could be your neighbors. Sometimes it can block up a whole street. But the way that you know that you have a fatberg underneath you is that if you flush the toilet, instead of flushing down, it will indeed flush up. And there was an incident in London where a hairdresser she just popped out the back to use the loo, and that's exactly what happened to her. And in London, because they had these huge old sewers,
yes,
made from brick, everything gets caught on the brick, and they can have fatbergs that are bigger than double-decker buses in there, just enormous. In Australia, we call them pipe monsters because we have skinny little pipes, and instead of being big, they're long, and you can like pull, and they'll just like come out, hundreds of meters long of this decaying, wet wipe infested.
So what I'm taking away from that is if I'm picturing all not my neighbors. If anyone comes over to check pipes, boom, I'm out of there. Get
a plumber.
Call the plumber. So that. Wow, that's so much science I had no idea was going to come out of ultraviolet. You've got fatbergs, you've got a talking crab, you've got the head and the heart of the relationship. It sounds like such an amazing story. Are you going to make a book too?
Yes. So there's a book 2, and the book 2 is even grosser. And then in book 2, they blast off because they have to go and save the world from these aliens who are invading. So it's actually mostly in space.
Yep.
And book 3 I'm writing at the moment, and that's going to be featuring a lot of parasitic science. I'm fascinated by parasites. Parasites are so disgusting, but aren't
So
they
is that
cool?
based in space or here on Earth?
Probably back on Earth, but
Who knows? This could go anywhere.
Yeah. You can do anything when you're the author or the
Yeah, that's
illustrator,
true.
because you don't have a big budget team of people filming everything. You can just do, it's going to be in space. There's going to be 10 spaceships and a big explosion and whatever I want.
Yeah, why not? How long does it take you to write these stories?
It can vary. That's such a good question, Lauren. It can vary. So sometimes it all flows, and sometimes it is agony and I can't get any momentum.
Oof.
And the only way you can find out what kind of day it is to sit yourself in the chair and do the work. So I try to do 1,000 words a day if I'm writing a novel. And if I do that really quickly, great. I can have the rest of the day to garden or walk or think or whatever. And if I do it really slowly, that's my bad luck. I just have to slog. I just have to slog through. But with a graphic novel, it's so different because some of the jokes are visual jokes. They're nothing to do with the words at all. So you kind of have to see it like a movie in your head and think, okay, that would be funny if, and that expression on her face would be gorgeous right now. So there's a lot more, it's more like writing a film script or a play, I think.
Yeah, I was
And to be
thinking
able to
that
give that to
actually.
Rebel. And she's
Yeah.
done this most wonderful thing where she's added in artist notes. So she said things like, do you really want me to draw 1 million people all queuing for the toilet? Or she's like, so there's this really smart little back and forth, which
Like,
I think is
what's in
adorable.
that Fatberg?
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, so that to me is something I've just learnt just now. So junior fiction is very much like writing, like it's a novel, isn't it? But
Yes.
graphic novels is like screenwriting where it's visual storytelling, where you're letting the scene tell the story, not necessarily the words. And that's so different. How did you find writing the two of them? So one's novel and one's visual storytelling. How did you go with that?
You asked the terrible questions.
Let's go back to Fatbergs. Let's go back to Fatbergs.
The creative process, it's such a mystery. I was reading something that A.L. Tate was writing. She's working on I don't know how many novels she's written, so many novels, and she's still experimenting with her process, and she's still discovering things. And I feel the same way. I never know how to write a book. And Ultraviolet's, I think, my 15th book.
That's
So
what
I still have no
I
idea.
mean.
Yeah. For the junior fiction, I am quite scientific and I set out 10 chapters, and I know I'm going to introduce the character in chapter 1. There's going to be a problem. They're going to try and solve it. It's not going to work. They're going to try again. It's still not going to work. Then there's a climax. I have no idea what happens in the climax. And then they live happily ever after. So I kind of know how to hang that.
Yep.
But with the graphic novel, I know it needs a story arc. It still needs a plot. It still needs to be driven by something. So that was really, really tricky. We worked with an amazing designer called Cristy Burne, who she kind of looked at that manuscript and went, this is 200 pages. I was like, how do you do that? There are no pictures. How do you know it's 200 pages? And she was able to lay all of the panels out. And that helps with the jokes as well, because you have to have a pause sometimes with a joke for it to land. Like one of my favorite jokes is why have no aliens invaded our solar system? It's all the 1-star reviews.
Stop. Oh, boom.
But you need
That
you
was
need a
perfect
pause, right, with a joke.
execution.
So Cristy
Perfect.
was able to lay that out, and then there's a visual pause. There's a break as the character thinks or the character reacts, and then it keeps going. Or the page turn, where you lead to some sort of moments, some tension, and you don't know what's going to happen until you turn the page. So that's all a skill in itself. So again, the teamwork behind this book is huge, 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 huge. There's no way that I could have done this by myself. Zero way. Zero. Like it's like all the big problems of the world. We have to work together. We all bring our different skill sets, and that's how things get done.
And so with so Danny approached you, and the moment it was go time, it was on. What was the time frame from woe to go? Because it does sound like there's lots of cooks in the kitchen here, and by
Yeah.
the time everyone works their magic to get that final product, what time frame are we looking at?
I think it was about 2 years. It was a long time. Yeah.
That is, that
But
is,
that's
isn't
another
it?
nice thing about publishing. And I encourage, if you're trying to land that first publishing contract, I made the mistake in those years where I was in the desert and writing and getting rejected and writing and getting rejected. I started to try and write to the market. I started to try and write something that I thought would sell. And I just kept polishing and polishing and polishing that little piece of dried up sewage. And what I should have done is send that out, submit it, forget it, start writing something else, submit it. When this comes back rejected, I don't even remember it, submit it somewhere else. This one comes back rejected, submit it somewhere else, write something new. And that way you're always fresh. You're writing because it's fun. It should be fun. It is fun. And I was
Oh,
falling into
absolutely.
procrastinating. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. I like would do anything except go to my desk. That's
Oh,
not fun.
no,
You know,
no.
where's the creative joy in that? So
Yeah.
yeah, what set me
And
free was writing something that I wanted to write purely for the joy of making stuff out of words. So make stuff out of words, send it off, make something new, send it off. I always say that manuscripts should be like boyfriends.
quite
Send one
right.
off. If it rejects you, you don't even know who they are anymore. Have another one. And then eventually, hopefully, you'll find a perfect match. Oh.
Life according to Cristy Burne. So I'm curious, are you open for author visits?
I love author visits. I love author visits. It is so much fun and such a privilege. Have you seen how busy schools are?
Yes.
Like,
What?
it's such a privilege for a school to invite you in, stop everything, and line all these beautiful faces up to listen and to look and to be amazed. It is amazing. I try and make it unforgettable. I try and make it experiential. I try and make it something that kids will walk away and buzz about, so that when you're at home that night and your kids, you say, how was school? And they just go, good. Why not say that? You must have done something. What did you do? It was good. I want them to be unable to stop talking. And then I want them to go and grab a book or a pencil. So yeah, I love school visits. It's my way of manipulating the future of the world.
Ooh, let the puppets dance, Cristy.
Well,
So,
snip off their strings so they can dance how they want to dance,
and are you available? Because I understand you're in WA, and I know the rest of the country would love to have you in their classroom. Are you available via Zoom?
I love Zooming. Yes, I'm available via Zoom. And I also love traveling. So I'm in Sydney. I'm heading to Warrnambool. I'm going to try and get back to Sydney. I love going to regional places because I don't get lost in my car. That's always a bonus. Just one road. Yeah, so I'm heading up to Broome for just after Book Week, which is this amazing tropical paradise. So anybody from Amazing Tropical Paradise who wants me to head up, yeah, I just love it. It's such an opportunity to spread the energy, spread the joy, spread that love for making and doing and reading and science. Science is such a bad rap. Why? It's just curiosity.
I know. I wish we had more of these books when I was younger, because I honestly I think what authors are doing now by making things fun, relatable, learning about these kinds of things. I mean, gosh, I can't wait to go and learn all about that. um, but that's the thing. I think what the children have available now, it's so exciting. So, Cristy, if anyone out there would love to book you for an author visit, how do they contact you?
Well, you have to be good at spelling. Remember, we said spelling is important. So you can Google CristyBurne.com, but that often autocorrects. And I tell kids that this is an issue for me. So sometimes if I write Cristy Burne, it will autocorrect to crusty bum. Please do not go. Do not go to crustybum.com.
Oh, no.
Don't go there. Just go. It's Cristy, CRISTYBURNE.com. And
And for
there,
kids, yes.
hopefully.
And for kids out there, don't ask your teacher to book a crusty bum visit. Just
It's really lovely now. It's really lovely because it helps you to remember my name. So people will actually yell out, "Hey, Crusty Bum!" I'll be like, "Hi." And because Violet has such an awkward name herself, I felt like that was something that we could share.
it had to happen by the sounds of it. So anyone out there watching this interview today, I please jump onto Cristy Burne's website. Please look at all of her books. Ultraviolet, super amazing. The story itself, it's going to get everyone just intrigued, laughing. There's more books in that series to come. But don't stop there. You have to look at her other books as well, like Into the Blue, which is about snorkeling and amazing stuff. But also, please look at booking Cristy for an author visit all around Australia, whether it be in person or through Zoom. We want to encourage more kids to pick up books, stretch their imagination muscles, and engage with authors like Cristy because you won't regret it. Cristy, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you, Lauren. It's been such a joy. Thank you for creating something where there was nothing, right? By picking up your microphone and reaching out and being courageous. So, yeah, I think the book community, we're full of people who just want to make the world a better place, and you're clearly one of them. So thank you very much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.